Okay, I'm here with a face that CS fans will know maybe, but they won't have seen him for a long time now. It's the Bears. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Erik the Bear Stromberg, and I hope you guys are doing all right.
Okay, so we're going to go way back in a time machine here. The first time I heard about this guy, the Bears, I remember at the time all the top teams in America had really famous players, but probably who some people won't remember now. We're talking about X3, DOP, Tau. These were all the famous teams back then. But then this team came along called Elite Underground. And at the time, they weren't so... In fact, the most famous player in this team was this guy called Notshot, who used to be in X3. But then you had like a little run at CPL in this famous scenario where Funk like goes PC trash and you got knocked out tournament. But this was kind of your come up in CS.
Yeah.
So what I want to know is, was this the first moment when you were actually good in CS? Like, how good do you think you were in that period of time?
Well, it was really that CPL was my first CPL that I've ever been to, and I was pretty good online, and people thought I was a hacker. Like everyone that I talked to, like, man, this guy cheats. He can't be legit, whatever. And then I went to CPL and performed, how I do online, and I got accepted as a good player. And really, that tournament was probably the tournament that I was like, yeah, I'm actually a pretty good player. So it really helped me kind of push my CS career into motion. Was that first CPL with the whole Funk incident and mumbo jumbo.
So after this came this period where you went from being like an up and coming player to suddenly being in the spotlight, because then suddenly you're playing with Ksharp, with Rambo, Bolt. These were like the legendary players at the time. Mm-hmm. The famous thing about that team is that online you were like one of the best in the US by far. People were even saying you might win the CPL. Mm-hmm. And then famously at the tournament itself, you got upset by a couple of teams like this Australian team and stuff. Yeah. We all know, like, one of the things that happened is you and Jaden kind of got the blame, because the other three were these legendary players, so no one's ever going to say maybe they played bad or it wasn't a good mix or whatever. So the fans easily just said, oh, it must be just these two new players. Did you feel like you kind of got a raw deal?
Oh, yeah, of course. That was a very bad experience in terms of, because, I went from a minor team like EU that's kind of got big into, one of the most popular teams in the world at the time, and like, we prepared really bad for that CPL. We had a boot camp, but like half the players were playing MMOs at the time. I'm not gonna toss anyone in the bus or anything. Yeah, I'm not gonna toss anyone in Ksharp. Okay. I love Kyle and everyone, but it was definitely a bad experience when you fly to like Dallas, Texas, and boot camp with some other teams, but half the time, like, your mind's not into it. Your soul's not into it. People are doing other things. Like, if you really want to win tournaments, you have to be 110% every way. Like, you got to have good friendship, gotta practice, you gotta want it, you gotta feel it, and that boot camp was not it, and it showed in the tournament, and that's why we did so poorly, was because of that.
Obviously in the moment it's always hard to figure out like what exactly went wrong, but I always like to think back a few years later, because then you can kind of like connect some threads more. Mm-hmm. And since then I've actually talked to Ksharp, I've talked to Rambo quite a bit online, and whenever I talk about that period in time, they said like you guys didn't practice at all, because basically online you were just wrecking everyone. It seemed so easy. And so the interesting thing was, I remember, if we think back to when those guys were in X3, they never really had like strategies, because they just had the 5 best players in America, so they could just go into the server with no practice and they'd kill everyone. So it kind of felt like that was like the CPL, where it proved that old method didn't really work. Like, you had, like, I think of the best team aside from you guys was TSO.
Yeah.
These were like the opposite. They were like not the best skilled players necessarily, but regimented, like practicing tactics. Mm-hmm. Do you think this was a factor as well?
Yes, I think that was a huge factor. When a game gets popular and people start to play and keep putting time and hours, like, you can't just hop in a server and just play. You have to talk about a game plan. You gotta talk, how am I going to beat this other team? It's like poker. It's like anything. The more the people play, the harder it becomes. The higher the skills healing is, and you have to practice. You have to, be ahead of the pack, and you just can't do that if you just hop in the server and just play. You gotta have like a whole game plan, everything, and I mean, we learned the hard way, but it was a good lesson for me in terms of any team that I've been on. Like, you have to get your stuff right and do it well, or you won't win.
In terms of your style of play, I mean, I can actually remember your style very well because you released a lot of POV demos, whereas a lot of players back then, they wouldn't release them,
Yeah.
And so I saw a lot of your games, and it seemed like when you played online, I don't even know if there was like a method to your madness. It seems like you just went wherever you wanted and just killed people here, there. Were you a player were you kind of like an ADD type guy, just all over the place, or did you have was there like a specific style that you were trying to go with? What was it like?
I mean, I don't want to say that I have ADD, but I do think that I have to try to focus and, pay attention. And the thing that my method is online or LAN, you have to play a player. And online, it's not the best competition online, it's casual, so like you could just run around and just like you play the player. It's like poker. You play the player and you win. On tournaments, you got to kind of play a little more passive because it's the best of the best. People hit their shots. They're smart, and you can't just run around. And so that's why you see a lot of players just a lot more passive on LAN because everyone has 0 ping. Everyone's equal when it's online. Some people have 50, 100 ping. You could just run around and shoot. So I guess you would say that my style would be like I kind of adapt to the situation. Like I don't play a specific like in shootmania, for example. I do play spots that I'm comfortable with, but I still have to almost play on the fly a little bit in terms of like, okay, this player's doing this, I need to be doing that, like just kind of mixing up a little bit so people can't catch on and be comfortable and beat me, like they have to work extra hard in order to overcome and beat my team. So that's kind of like the mentality I have when I play games.
One thing that I always found interesting, and I think it kind of applies to North America as a scene as well, was online you would often, if you just felt hot, you would just buy an AWP as well, and you would use the AWP whenever you wanted. But I noticed that there were a lot of players in American CS online who would AWP, and they would seem to be doing great. But then when it got to the LAN tournaments like CPL, a lot of them either wouldn't buy it at all. I mean, even Ksharp didn't really use it that much, or they would use it and it wouldn't really be that effective. And it always seemed like when you were online, you have the little buffer of you can have at least 30 ping, Whereas when you've got like 0 ping, then like some amazing Swedish rifler, suddenly like you can only miss once and he's going to get you for sure. Was this kind of like how you felt it was in that time period?
Yes, I felt like is it actually kind of like how I was. Like I would opt out online because it's a little more forgiving online. As you said, with people like with 50, 60 ping, it's harder for them to, poo-poo, hit you in the head across the map. But on LAN, like average people who aren't that great can hit those kind of shots because the ping, like, it's 5. It's really just you aim and click and stuff like that. And so it's hard for people to, like, it's in game of Counter-Strike, you use money. So, like, people don't opt because it's so expensive. Like, you have to buy rifles and, like, if you're losing, because you're playing against top teams, and it's not like online where, okay, I'm winning, or I could buy AWP, or I'm losing. I don't, it won't matter online if you lose or win, but on LAN, you pay money, you want to win, you want to try your best, and, so risks are taken out on LAN. Like, a lot of risks are taken out, and so people would not do that buying AWP if they're kind of feeling, they want to keep doing the same thing, they want to keep just playing comfortable, I guess you would say, and that's probably a big reason why that people just don't buy AWPs on LAN, because it's just everything's even too expensive, and it doesn't really seem that smart to do that.
Okay, so after the 3D period, an interesting storyline that always came out that the fans always hyped was the fact that because you guys that kind of did get thrown under the bus, when you and Jaden then went to TEC, I noticed that when you beat 3D online, those demos instantly got released, and then when you beat them at Killer LAN, was there really from your side ever kind of like a revenge thing, like you wanted to kind of prove to those guys by beating them, like, I was a good player, it wasn't just my fault,
all the way. Like, when we played those guys in LAN for the first time after the whole incident, like, we were fired up, we wanted to beat them more than anyone, everyone's hyping them up, and like we're the underdogs, and it was just a great feeling to beat like the top American team on land when they just won a CPL like months prior to that. It was just a great feeling, and like it was revenge all the way. Like I mean, no one likes being cut from a team. It's a bad feeling. Like you kind of feel lost and like like really it was really my fault. You kind of have to stop and think a little bit. Like I hope it's not just me. It's a team game. You can't just blame one person for it.
Even though you did really well at that Killer Land, though, the CPL was really bad for that tech team. But the funny thing is, I have an anecdote I want to know if you remember. Because obviously, like, you lost the game, so that you didn't play that well as a team. But there was also, it seemed like everything that could go wrong went wrong. Because I remember a story that I was told where you played a team on Inferno, you were on CT side, and you were, like, in a key round where you have to win this round. And Jaden says, like, someone buy me an AWP. So you're in CT spawn on Inferno, okay? Mm-hmm. Someone buys an AWP, but when you throw, if you look down, it goes too far.
Yep.
The AWP went behind that little railing where you can't get to it, and was this true?
Yes, that's true. That happened against Team 3D when I was. Wait, was it against Team 3D? I don't remember who it was against.
It was CPL, though, I'm pretty sure.
It was a CPL, and Jaden was buying his teammates, one of our teammates, a gun, and he looks to the side and throws his AWP, to the side, like
so
Inferno. Yeah, like there's a glitch on that map where in CT spawn, if you throw your gun like in the wall, it gets like in the wall on the ground, and you can't pick it up, and that's exactly what he did. And like I think we ended up like losing that match, like just at the end, by like 2 rounds. You know what I mean? And like if he had that gun, we probably could have won the match. Happens so much, man. Too many CPLs that happen to me. Like I don't understand why. That's why how the Bears curse thing came along. Because stuff like this, like my computer turns off in 2-on-1 and stuff like that. Like it's just like I touch a computer and just something happens. Like I don't know. It's like, but even though it happened, it's still the path that I'm going, and I don't feel any regrets or anything, but I do wish things went more my way, because I like if I won more games, who knows where I'll be today. Maybe some top teams in the past, like who knows, like just how things would turn out. But it happened, and you pick up your stuff and move on and just do your thing.
When we mentioned these teams, so Elite Underground, 3D, TEC, I mean, it seemed like you and Jaden just had like some special connection, like in game or out game or whatever. Like he was like your boy. Was it this way? Were you like guys who just knew like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about him like the other guys? Was it like this?
Yes. At the time I lived near Chicago, and Jaden and the majority of EU lived in St. Louis, so it's like a 4.5-hour drive. And he was the first land I ever went to was with MLR, which was pretty much EU, but with some other people here and there. And we went to R2K. It was a huge. It was like one of the first CPL auto birth tournaments in the country. It was like I think it was 2000. I mean, R2K.
That's right,
yeah, and so we went to that. We drove like 16 hours. Jaden's dad. We were like 16 years old at the time, and we go into some land in Maryland, and we go there and we play. People were calling us hackers on land because we're just beating everybody. We're spamming. Like back then, people didn't really spam walls, but like we were spamming wall in Prodigy, and people were like, what's going on? These guys are cheating, like. But and we're like looking at them like, okay. I mean, these people are standing behind us, BYOC computer, looking at how we play, and they're like, these guys are cheating. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And so we end up winning that tournament, going CPL, and Jaden had a good strong bond with him. He was a pretty good friend of mine. As a player, I like being comfortable with my teammates. Like, even though like we have to get along out of game, be friends, like I can't play in a team where it's just business. Like you play because they're good. That's why a lot of times where I turned down a lot of top teams before.
Can you give me like a good example of like a what if story, like something you could have joined that could have been big?
Well, after CGS, Complexity wanted Well, actually,
I think you did a little team with them for a while.
but it was a different complexity. It was like with Warden and Fraud and them, and they wanted me to try out for the team. But at the time, I was with Zex, with CBZ and them, and I mean, like, you call it loyalty or what, but like, I didn't want to leave my friends. Like, I like playing with my friends, and you know, I have to enjoy the people I play with in order to play with them, and you know, that's what I did, and that's why I've always, like, if you watch my CS career, there's always kind of like in the earlier past, there's always, like, you know, for like the first 4 or 5 years I was with Jaden.
Yeah.
And after that, it was with CBZ and stuff, and then, you know, it's from there, it's whatever.
One of the interesting things, I mean, you're a perfect guy to ask about this because, like I said, you were at CPLs in 2001, like right through basically. Mm-hmm. People from the outside, because they saw like all these numbers on HLTV and they saw like, oh, you can win 30,000, they probably think like, oh, it's professional like it is today. But they don't realize, like, people used to joke and say every CPL's in the basement of the Hyatt, and like people are going to these events with like hardly any money. Like, I heard a story once that you went to a CPL and you had to be there for like a week and a half at the boot camp of the CPL, and you took like $16 or something to last you the whole time.
Oh man!
I mean, was it really like this crazy behind the scenes in terms of like how some of even the top teams were?
Yes. When I was with TEC, I was staying in Dallas, Texas to boot camp for like not 6 months, for like 2-3 months straight. Okay. And I stayed with one of the managers there, and pretty much like the whole summer I ate ramen and Easy Mac and peanut butter jellies like every single day. I'd sleep on the floor of their apartment, and just like if I'm thinking about it now, I don't even know how I did that. Like, that's like,
yeah, you have to be a kid to do that.
Yeah, you got to be a kid. Like no normal human being would want to be on the floor sleeping, you know, for like 3 months on some dirty carpet and stuff like that. Like, it's like I'm thinking back, like, wow, I mean, I was kind of crazy, like, doing that kind of thing. But yeah, like back then I was kind of, you know, I'm just poor. Like, you know, it just I played to play games, and it's like you did not make that much money playing games at all. Like, you have to be like the 1-2 team in the world to actually get salary and paid and stuff like that. That's how it works.
So an interesting teammate you had in your career that I want to ask about actually is, believe it or not, maybe a name you wouldn't expect me to throw out there, but Sunman actually. Because the interesting thing was, early in his career, we can remember when he was like the online super, he was like the original online superstar. Yeah. He was just killing people through walls, and everyone was like, oh, he cheats for sure. Yeah. But then the funny thing is, when he got really successful in call, when they won all those like ESWC and stuff, then people actually used to, believe it or not, say that like he wasn't that skilled, and you know, he should be cut from the team, but then he was more of like a clutch, like veteran type player. Like, you played with him in U5 between these two periods. Like, what was he good at as a player? What was he like as a player? He
as a player, he plays a support role, which, I mean, if you look at like League of Legends, it's a very important role. Like, you know, he's tossing nades and flashes when they're peeking. Like, so if the other team, you know, runs past his teammate and kills Sunman, then people will be like, oh, this guy's like an idiot because he's not killing people the entire time. But his role was like he was a support player. He would flash, he would smoke. Like, nades is more of a priority than, you know, guns for his role. And people who don't really understand the game at that high level can't understand that. Like, it's a dirty role, you know. Like, he won't get a lot of kills, but, you know, he'll help the team win. And, you know, that's what his role. He helped the team win, and that's a very important role that a lot of people can't realize if you're not a hardcore, like, if you know everything about the game, you know what I mean?
The funny thing is, the next team I want to talk about, okay, so we had the De Beers curse, and the Beers curse basically says, like, the team can do well, but if they go to CPL, they'll never finish. I think it was like top 16 or something, whatever it was. And it always held for all these years. Yeah. And the funny thing is, all the teams that got beaten by the curse were always like either best or second best team online. Yeah. So they looked like, oh, this is for sure going to do well. And then it was like the opposite, like we didn't do so well. So the one time the De Beers curse was finally broken, it was like the opposite, because beforehand, if you'd have put that team on paper and say, guys, you think these will come top top 3 at CPL, everyone would be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, who is Mufa? Who are these guys? You know, these are Smoogler, whatever their name was. Yeah. These weren't players who were like considered top 3 caliber. So why was this the team that broke the De Beers curse?
A lot of it has to do with, I think it was the perfect storm kind of thing, where we weren't, like in the past teams, you know, as you said, they're always top, you know, 1, 2 online, so it put a lot of, like, it put a lot of emotion and stress and everything, and it made us play worse, and like it's like for some reason, like a lot of teams that I played with online, like that destroyed online were like they were almost like new LAN players, like, you know, like Elude from one of them, like he was never really a LAN player at the time. I mean, he'd been to like 1 or 2 LANs, but like a major LAN, it was like the CPL that I went with him was like his second.
I think it was, yeah.
Like his second big LAN that he's ever been to, but like he just, I mean, people get nervous. I mean, I still get nervous all the time. Like, but it's kind of it's how you control the emotions. It's how you make, like, over the years you learn to control the nervousness, and like, you know, I got to slow down. I have to you know, think a little bit and be comfortable. And why JMC won was the perfect storm. Like, no one expected us to do any well, so a lot of people underestimated us and stuff. And Zed played amazing. Smoogler played like the best CS he's ever played. Evan and Royal were amazing too. Like, we all played really, really well, and we wanted to win. And you know, and that's what happened. Like, we just kept upsetting teams, beating teams. Like, we just, because the week, like 2 weeks coming up to that CPL, all we did was play Counter-Strike. But before that, like, we never played together, like, with that roster.
Oh, okay.
It was like 2 weeks before the CPL we actually played together. So we did that whole boot camping and everything, and it just went, just, you know, you got to have a little bit of luck too. But we played well and got lucky and got 3rd place, and we're happy and proud of that.
I mean, for you, with all the stuff we've said before, like the kind of build-up of like these letdowns, it must have been a crazy experience that, like, for example, you beat the Complexity team that was like the world champions that year. You beat Nip, who had like Heaton and Potty. I mean, all those CPLs you've been to, they're always the guys stood on the podium, you know, like then I don't think they ever placed below 3rd or something. This was like the one time they did.
Yeah.
It must have been like a dream come true type event. What was it like in that sense?
It was definitely surreal. Like, we just, you know, all those years of playing and like not doing well, and then the one CPL you just play and you got 3rd place, and like one of the hardest CPLs ever, like
One of the most stacked ever, I think. Yeah.
More stacked CPL ever, and you got 3rd place, and you're like, wow, like that's just like, it never really hit me until like 3 days later, like, wow, I just, you know, my team just got 3rd place at CPL, you know. I mean, even though we were aiming for 1st, of course,
Sure.
but 3rd place still at that CPL is like, after all the other possibilities, it's like, wow, man, it's like, it was a very happy, surreal feeling, and it just, you know, it was one of the happier moments of my life, just like, because it's just years and years of practice and playing, and finally doing well is like, you can't describe it. It's just, it's such a great feeling.
So you touched on it there, actually. You mentioned Zid played great. The strange thing is, when he had this tournament, okay, everyone thought afterwards, oh, he's going to be the new North American superstar. But then he never really did as well afterwards. It's like for 1 week in his life, he just used all his powers up. Like, he went like Super Saiyan. Just, it was insane. Like, have you ever seen anyone just play that well at one CPL, one guy? And he was an unknown at the time, you know.
Yeah, he was a pretty unknown. People thought he cheated online, like fraud. Thought the guy cheated. Yeah. I think, though, like, what people don't realize with teams is, like, people play a bit differently with other people. Like, our team outside chemistry was okay, but, like, I don't know, like when we played the game and got like focused and serious, like we were just on fire. Like, we just played really well. And Zid, I mean, the team that he played after was like the U5 team with like K-Mode and Cuz and them and stuff. And so, like, I mean, I played with them and I like them. They're pretty cool people, but as teammates, like, you know, it's kind of like whatever, you know, like they weren't the most professional players in terms of like, you know, like they had their own lives, and so it's not like 100% serious and everything like that. And I think it's just, you know, like he went from the top just off the bat, and it's a whole different mindset when you want to maintain that kind of thing. It's like a whole different game, kind of doing that thing. And I guess that's probably one of the reasons why he didn't do too well, is because of the just because our team died couple weeks after that, and it just, I don't know, he just kind of fell off a little bit. Still good though.
But I mean, the crazy thing is, at that CPL especially, I mean, he just seemed possessed. Like, he was hitting no scopes on like top teams. He was like winning every 1v3 and stuff. I mean, you've played with Ksharp, you've played with these amazing players over your career, some of the best players ever. Like, was it up there in terms of performances?
Definitely. He was definitely one of the best players at that tournament that I've ever played with. He was just hitting everything. He was just playing amazing, and like, again, it was like the perfect storm. Like, everyone was playing amazing that tournament. Like, we all were doing ridiculous things, and like you can't reproduce that every day, every tournament. It's just, it happens. It happened once, and we got in. You know, it happened, and that's what you got to do. Is you got to be on fire to take that top place. You have to have a little luck.
Another player you played with, but after that I want to ask about, because he's such a reclusive player, people never really knew, like, it's obviously Stevenson from EG. Because he's the player where he's the biggest what-if story I always thought in North America, because he's maybe the one person, like, I know 3D asked him to join a bunch of times, but he's literally the guy where he was like, no, I'm just going to stay with my friends here. And so they'd never get past a certain level, you know. You got to play with him for like a summer, I think. Was he really as good as people said?
I played for him about a year with CGS, with season 1 and 2, and I got to know him really well because we all lived in an apartment area. And he was very skilled, but the thing that made him Stevenson is his luck. He is, everyone, I mean, if you ever talk to anyone from EG, they will say he is the luckiest guy they've ever met. And he would camp a corner, people just walking him backwards. We were like, what's going on? Like, how does this happen? You know, like, yeah, but he's really cool. I love Matt. It's been a long time since I've seen him, like probably 4 years since I've last seen him, and you know, he's a great guy, cool person to hang out with, like out of game too. He's like really chill, and we hung out, we worked out together and stuff at CGS and all that kind of good stuff. And he's a really down to earth kind of guy, and I mean, if anyone actually known him, they like him too. I mean, he's hard not to like.
But in terms of like the what if, the reason I want to ask is because, sure, on one hand we could say, okay, well, if you put him with Ksharp and with Rambo, maybe it'd be like the best team ever. But I mean, was he a player where you think like part of the reason he stayed with his teammates is because it was more like, because they were friends, it was more comfortable, or do you think he could have actually like been just a star player type guy in another team? You know,
he probably could have been a star player of another team, but I think like kind of what made him that good is that he's always comfortable with the people he's playing with, because he's known them for so long. And his personality type, like, say for example, if he was on Team Complexity with Lake and stuff, and back in where they're just like hardcore playing like 8 hours a day, and Lake's like throwing chairs at people and stuff like that, I don't think he would have done as well as he would have, because it's just, he's more of like a relaxed personality, just sitting back and, you know, be cool, that kind of thing. And his friends really helped him be that way, kind of like as he played, because he's just so comfortable. And so like other teams, you know, he probably would have been really good because he's a great player, a lot of skill, smart guy. But I don't think he would have been, you know, as good as he was with EG.
Can you pick out for me? I know we've talked about the stars. These are the people everyone remembers. They were great players. But I always like to ask people, because usually pros have a different answer, is like, who is the most underrated player you played with? Because usually there's a guy where he never got any credit, but maybe he just did like, so he did really well in a certain way, but he was overshadowed. Was there someone who comes to mind when I say that, the most underrated player? that you played with?
Would have to be Hare.
Okay.
Michael O'Toole from U5. He, like people, I mean, he was, like people thought he was pretty good, but like no one like people thought he was like the weak link in teams, like because he never was a top fragger all the time, but he was. I lived with him for like a year and a half in Chicago when we had that U5 LAN team, and he was a team leader. His mindset is amazing. Like personally, like I've taken his mindset into my own life because he's a positive person. He's just like it's always half full kind of guy, you know, and he's helping out with strats. He's main guy behind strats. He's a strat caller. He's always just like, if you ever felt bad, he'll cheer you up, kind of thing. Like, you know, he was a great guy, and I love Mike to death. And I think in all people, he was the most underrated person in my eyes because he was a great player, but people don't give him credit because he never really top fragged a lot. But he was an amazing teammate, amazing player, and I think he deserved more credit than what he got.
So at the moment, we see you with the Complexity shirt on here. You're here at IPL playing Shootmania.
Mm-hmm.
You know how CS fans are. Like, until CS, no one in the world plays CS. They're always going to hold on like, no, you traitor, you left CS. You know, this sort of mentality. So where are you at now as a gamer? Like, is Shootmania the future for you? Do you think in terms of, like, is CS going to be a big game with CSGO? Like, how do you see things for you and, like, the gaming scene at the moment?
It's still kind of a toss-up because really the only successful games right now is StarCraft 2 and League of Legends. And, like, I've actually been, like, in thought, like, maybe I need to actually, you know, to actually switch over to these games. Like, I played StarCraft 2. I was a master, you know, Zerg player, and I played League of Legends, you know, I played ranked games and stuff, and, like, I'm in a position, like, do I keep playing FPS, you know, kind of like support my roots kind of thing, or actually do I switch to a game that's the most popular game? That's kind of what goes through my head a lot, is like, am I supposed to stay with FPS, you know, because it's naturally, you know, I'm pretty, I play well in FPS naturally, and unlike League of Legends, StarCraft 2, where I had to bust my ass when like practicing this game. Like StarCraft 2, I can't remember how many times I would like check Team Liquid, check for strats, like techniques to shift click things, you know, like it's a whole new game, and so it's like, you know, you start from the bottom. Well, FPS, I could jump right in and be invite level, you know, just because of my raw aim and mentality and everything and experience for that game. So it's really tough. Like, I would, if Shootmania took off like League of Legends, that'd be great. That'd be amazing. But like, it's really hard to copy League of Legends success in games, and so I'm always gonna be at that point. Like, should I keep playing Shootmania? Should I, you know, should I play CS:GO or something like that? You know, but like, Shootmania is fun. I have a lot of fun. CS:GO, I'm still mixed feelings. Like there's a time when I was playing for like a month, like a lot, and I liked it a lot. But like, there's nothing going on for that game. There's no tournaments in America for CS:GO. There's nothing, and so like, why should I play this game? You know, like, why should I support it if their own company Valve is like, they don't care? You know, like, why should I? You know, like, it's just kind of. It's like why should I waste my time with that when they've come in like Nadio, who were like, you know, they put their heart and soul into making this game popular, and it's like, you know, that takes it that much farther in my eyes than playing a game that I used to play, CS, you know, back in the day, you know?
The interesting thing is, anytime I get a chance at events and I see an old Quake player or an old Counter-Strike player, I always try and do an interview with them. And I've noticed the interesting thing is, pretty much across the board, even people who had a lot of like heartbreak in their games, or people who maybe came close to winning and then they never did it, you'd think like with the way sports stars are, it would like haunt them forever. But actually, everyone across the board has like these, they only remember the great times about CS. They remember the great teammates they had, like the life experiences. They just remember all the fun, basically. And they're always really happy to talk to me, actually, when I ask them. It's one of the most fun things about catching up.
Yeah.
Is this the way you would think back on CS, your whole time in CS as a player?
Of course. It's all about the fun. Like, if, like, you know, shit happens. You know, you do bad, you'll lose, you know. But if you let that haunt you, if you let that eat you away, you're going to be a very miserable, sad person. And you can't do that. Like, you can't live that way. You have to live life and have fun and remember all the good times, the people that you met, and the new people. And, you know, you can't let this stuff bog you down, or you're going to be like just a sad, miserable person. And, you know, like, who wants to be sad? You know, it's just it's a waste of energy. You know, just that negative energy. You don't want any of that kind of stuff. And if you see those people that keep trying, and try to hit the top, you know, you can't be a negative person, because if you are, you're gonna stop playing after one or two times or whatever. You know, it's all about the fun that really keeps you keep playing the game, meeting the people. The experience is what keeps me going. You know, like, I love playing these tournaments and playing on stage, but like, coming here, meeting the people that you talk to online, and, you know, talking to people who work behind the scenes, like you, and people who actually set up the whole tournament area. Like, it's a really amazing experience to just everyone, all the people working as one into making this happen for everybody. It's unbelievable, and you got to be thankful and happy, or you won't make it. You just won't make it if you're just so negative.
Okay, so do you have a final message for all the people who watch this? Like, maybe somebody you want to say hello to, thank you, you know, this usual stuff.
I just want to say thanks to everybody, especially to my family, friends, and just it's been a really great experience through the years, and I hope to continue playing and everything. And it's like, I couldn't have be here today without the support of everybody that put their time, their heart, their soul into this esports community. It's really a blessing, and I really thank everybody who's ever, you know, touched my life, who's ever been a part of my life. And you know, it's an honor to meet people and everything. And also thank Complexity, my sponsors. And, you know, we wouldn't be here without Shootmania and IPL. You guys are doing great. Keep it up, and hopefully esports will keep on kicking.
Thanks.
Thank you.